December 15th, 2025, 2:17 a.m. Eastern. This is Ethan Mercer, and I'm still on the air out of what used to be the WNHK building on the edge of Manchester, New Hampshire. If you're hearing me through the hiss, if you're hearing me at all, then something in your house still works. A car battery, a hand crank, a solar panel you forgot you owned. Maybe you're in a basement with a little radio you swore you'd never need. Keep it close. Keep the volume low if you're not alone. I'm starting like this because the phones are mostly dead, the internet is gone in big patches, and the last official broadcast I heard, before the stations turned into loops and then into nothing, told people to remain calm while half of New England was already turning into a dark map. That was hours ago. Or it was yesterday. Time is getting slippery. The studio clock is still ticking, but I don't trust it. The only thing I trust right now is the cold pressing against the windows like a living thing, and the way the city has gone quiet in that wrong, hollow way. Like when a stadium empties out after a bad injury, and nobody wants to talk about what they saw. You probably found this signal by accident. Most people did. 104.7 FM is dead. 98.3 is dead. AM 610 is just static with a little squeal that makes your teeth hurt. But there's this narrow lane on shortwave that keeps opening and closing like a door in a storm. If you've got shortwave, try 6.885 megahertz. If it fades, try 7.230. If you don't have shortwave and you're on a normal car radio, I'm pushing what I can through a backup transmitter on 102.9 FM, but it's weak. It might not carry past the hills. It might not carry past the next street. I'm not promising range. I'm promising I'm here. Outside, the temperature dropped so fast the building's old metal frame started making noises. Sharp little pops like someone snapping plastic ties. The hallway lights keep flickering. The backup generator is running, but it's running like an old man trying to climb stairs. Slow, angry, coughing. We've got about 2 tanks of diesel in the basement, and after that, I don't know. If you're listening from somewhere with power, don't waste it. Charge your stuff. Fill your bathtub. If you think that sounds dramatic, I need you to understand. The blast of Arctic air thing you saw on weather apps, if you even still had apps, was the start of it, not the whole story. People are going to argue about what it is. Some of you already are. I've heard it over the last few days, on shaky calls and half-working texts. It's just a storm. It's the grid. It's Russia. It's China. It's a test. It's a hoax. It's God. I'm not going to sell you an easy answer. I'm going to tell you what I saw, what I heard, what I can confirm, and what doesn't make sense. You can build your own picture from that. Just don't build it too slow. The first thing that felt wrong wasn't the cold. We get cold. We live in it. People in Maine wake up to frozen windshields like it's nothing. The first thing that felt wrong was the timing. This wasn't a normal front. This wasn't a slow grind of winter settling in. It was like someone pulled a curtain and the whole air mass behind it fell out onto us. On Thursday, December 11th, I think, I was on my regular evening slot. I remember because I was joking about how early it was getting dark, and I had a cup of bad vending machine coffee, and I was counting down to the weekend like everybody else. The weather guy from a station down in Boston sent me a message that night. He's not a friend, more like a guy you trade notes with. He said, "You seeing this pressure wall?" I didn't know what he meant. He sent a screenshot. A line on the map like someone had drawn it with a ruler. It cut across Quebec and dipped south like a hook. He called it a pressure wall, like it was a thing you could bump into. And the weird part? A lot of the usual data around it looked thin, like gaps, like the map had blind spots. You know how your phone drops signal in a tunnel? It looked like that, but on the weather models. Missing patches. Not just one site either, 2 different feeds, 2 different sources. That's when I got that first little squeeze in my stomach. Not fear, not yet. Just that sense that something behind the curtain was moving, and you weren't supposed to see it. Then the first incident happened. People will argue about what counts as first. For me, it was the jet in Albany. December 12th, around 9:40 p.m., there was this clip floating around, back when clips were still floating around, of a passenger plane coming in low and weird over the thruway, just outside Albany International. The person filming was in a car. You could hear them laughing at first, like they thought it was some cool near miss. The plane wasn't on fire. It wasn't broken in half. It just drifted, like it was tired, like it forgot what air was. Then it clipped something, maybe a light tower, maybe the edge of a structure, and slid. You didn't see bodies in the clip. You saw sparks, and you saw snow, and you saw this ugly skid. The weird part wasn't the crash. Crashes happen. The weird part was the reaction. No sirens for a full minute. In a city. At an airport. The guy filming even said, "Where are they?" He meant emergency vehicles. Nothing. Like the whole system took a breath and didn't breathe out again. Later that night, another clip showed the airport terminal lights going out in sections, like someone was turning off breakers one by one. Again, not unheard of. But there was no official statement, no press conference. Just silence, and then the FAA site, when you could still access it, started timing out. People began posting screenshots of unavailable pages. Then, at 11:58 p.m., a friend of mine who works ground operations at a smaller field in New Jersey texted me one line. "They grounded us, but won't say why." I texted back. No reply. I still haven't heard from him. You could say that was just weather. Ice. Wind shear. Fine. But here's the second incident, and it wasn't about planes. On Saturday, December 13th, around midday, a lot of people in rural Vermont and western Massachusetts got emergency alerts on their phones. Not weather alerts, not amber alerts, the kind you only get if something is seriously wrong. Except the text was garbled. It looked like someone smashed a keyboard. People posted it. Some of it looked like coordinates. Some of it looked like system tags. A few screens showed a plain line that said, "Shelter in place. Do not approach fallen wildlife." That's the phrase. Fallen wildlife. Who writes that? I called the state emergency line, still worked then, and waited on hold for 17 minutes. When a woman finally picked up, her voice was flat, like she'd been crying, and then stopped. She told me, that message was not authorized. I asked what it meant. She said, "I can't advise." I asked if there was a hazard. She said, "Stay indoors if you can." And then she hung up. Not a polite hang-up. A click like a guillotine. That was the first time I thought, okay, this isn't just weather. The third incident was the animals. I'm not doing horror movie talk. I'm telling you what I heard from too many different places for it to be a rumor. Sunday night, December 14th, farmers across upstate New York and northern Pennsylvania started calling local stations about herds acting wrong. Cows pushing against fences like they were trying to get out of their own skins. Chickens silent. Deer moving in straight lines down roads like they were following a sound you couldn't hear. And birds, starlings, crows, dropping, just dropping. There were pictures of them on snowbanks, scattered like someone spilled pepper. Some people said it was the cold snap, but it wasn't cold enough yet for that to make sense. Not like that, not all at once. And there were reports of the same thing in southern Ontario, then Maine, then New Hampshire. I got my first call about it at 7:06 p.m. yesterday. A man named Lewis from Concord. He sounded like he'd been running. He told me he'd seen a line of deer on I-93 near exit 13, moving south in the breakdown lane, not spooked by headlights, not moving off when cars slowed. He said one deer turned its head and looked straight into his windshield, and he felt like it knew he was there. I wanted to dismiss him. I wanted to say stress makes you see things. But then my producer who isn't here anymore, I'll get to that, pulled up 2 other reports matching it within the same hour. Different towns, same behavior. And while all that was happening, the Arctic air hit like a fist. At 5:10 p.m. yesterday, the wind changed. It had been a normal winter wind, sharp but familiar, coming out of the west. Then it swung north, and the air that came with it had no softness. It wasn't just cold, it was dry cold, the kind that burns your nose. Within 30 minutes, the road outside the station went from wet to glass. The salt trucks made passes, but it didn't matter. The salt just sat there like white sugar on black ice. Our building's front steps turned into a slide. Across town, they said 2 buses jackknifed near the river. A dispatcher called it instant ice. That phrase again. Like the weather had a switch. Now, here's where it starts to get ugly. Because weather doesn't usually take your information away. Weather knocks down power lines. Weather blocks roads. Weather kills, sure. But weather doesn't make governments go quiet in sync. At 6:42 p.m., New Hampshire's state website went down. Not slow. Down. At 6:45, the main site did the same. Then Massachusetts. Then the regional NOAA feed started stuttering, giving updates that were clearly old, repeating the same line about winter storm warnings, while outside it was turning into something past warning. At 7:12, a friend in the National Guard, yes, I have one, yes, I know that sounds like fake radio drama, I know, sent me a message that just said, "Stop talking about the deer, they're monitoring." I asked monitoring who. He didn't answer. He did send one more thing. If you have family in the lowlands, move them. Flood after freeze. That's all. Then his number went dead. Not voicemail. Dead tone. That's when I realized we were being squeezed from 2 sides. The cold from the north, and silence from everywhere else. If you're in the Northeast, you already know the first things that fail. You lose trees. You lose lines. You lose the easy comfort stuff. But last night, the failures weren't random. They were patterned. They moved like a wave. Around 8:30 p.m., parts of Manchester lost power. Not the whole city. Blocks, islands. It looked like someone had cut power to specific nodes. The big stores stayed lit. The municipal building stayed lit. But neighborhoods went dark. Then, 20 minutes later, the pattern changed. Those blocks came back, and different blocks went out. I watched it from the 3rd floor window. Street by street, like a moving shadow. That's not how storms usually do it. That's how load shedding works when a grid operator is trying to keep the whole system from crashing. That's what you do when you're buying time. At 9:05 p.m., our station took a voltage hit. The lights blinked. The monitors rebooted. The phones went weird. We switched to backup. We called the utility. The utility line was jammed. No hold music. Just a busy signal that never ended. Then a recorded message came on, but it wasn't the normal one. The voice was wrong, too calm, too slow. It said, "Service disruption is under assessment. Do not attempt travel. Await further instruction." It didn't say the company name. It didn't say, "Thanks for your patience." It just ended. And then the media started to vanish. At 9:22 p.m., the Boston TV stations went to a still image, not a snow delay graphic, a seal, a plain seal, and a line of text that said, "Emergency broadcast in effect." No scrolling ticker, no anchor, no audio, just that. People who still had cable took photos of their screens and sent them around until sending stopped working. At 9:41 p.m., even that still image disappeared, and the channels went black. Some people said they heard a tone first. I didn't. Maybe my feed lagged. Maybe theirs was different. The point is, it wasn't one station. It was all of them. If you're still thinking, okay, but this could still be storm plus bad planning, listen close. Here's what makes me think there's something else riding on top of the storm, like a second disaster wearing the weather as a mask. At 10:13 p.m., I got a call from a woman named Marisol in Lowell, Massachusetts. Her call kept breaking, but she said she works at a hospital. She said they got a directive around 8 p.m. to prepare for cold injuries and respiratory events. That's normal in a deep freeze. But then, she said, they were told to set aside a whole wing for exposure cases with agitation. Her words, exposure cases with agitation. She said they were told not to call it hypothermia on charts, not to use that word. Use neurological cold response. I asked if anyone explained why. She said, they said it's to keep panic down. Then she started crying, not sobbing. Just that quiet choke you do when you're trying not to make noise. She said, they're biting. I said, who's biting? The line went dead. That is the first time I felt actual fear punch up through my ribs. I want to be careful here because I'm not going to turn this into a monster story. This is not me telling you the dead are walking. This is not me telling you a magic virus is making people eat each other. I'm telling you that something is happening to some people in the cold, and it's making them act wrong. And the people who run things are responding like they've seen it before, or like they've been warned it could happen. Now, I'm going to tell you what my insider theory list looks like, and I'm going to label it clearly as theory, not fact. Because if you're still out there making decisions, where to go, who to trust, you need a clean line between what I know and what I suspect. Theory 1. The grid and comms are being controlled on purpose, not they're failing. Controlled, managed. That suggests a plan. Martial law doesn't need tanks on your street right away. It needs your map to go blank so you can't coordinate. It needs your phone to fail so you can't compare notes. You can handle cold. You can handle snow. You can't handle not knowing what's happening 2 towns over. Theory 2. There's a chemical or biological thing riding with the weather. Not on the snowflakes like some movie. Something more boring and more scary, like a leak or a release or a problem in infrastructure that the cold triggered. Pipelines shrink. Valves fail. Old seals crack. Treatment plants freeze. If a water system gets contaminated and then the comms go down, you get pockets of people getting sick in strange ways while everyone else argues online. Except now, there is no online. It would be the perfect fog. Theory 3. Military testing. I hate even saying it because it makes people roll their eyes. But I have heard, from 2 people who do not know each other, that there were unusual flights out of Fort Drum and Westover Air Reserve Base in the days before the front hit. Not just cargo, not just training, low flights, night flights, some kind of movement. If that's true, it could mean they were repositioning for weather response. Or it could mean they were repositioning for something else and the weather is a cover. Theory 4, the simplest and maybe the worst. Panic is the main contagion. The cold is real. The outages are real. And the biting story could be a stressed hospital worker describing desperate people in a hallway. People do wild things when they can't breathe, when they're freezing, when the lights go out. You might be listening and thinking, so it's just humans. And maybe that's it. But the deer, the alerts, the patterned outages, the quiet, those don't fit just humans. I'm going to pause for a second and tell you something personal, because I think it matters that you know who's talking to you. I'm not a hero. I'm a guy who spent most of his career reading weather bulletins and traffic updates, talking through late-night insomnia, being a voice people half listen to while washing dishes. I stayed because this building is one of the few places with a generator, a transmitter, and thick walls. I stayed because when the first blackout wave hit, I saw people on the street looking up at dark windows like they were waiting for the sky to explain. And I stayed because my producer, Sam, told me, if we go dark, people will do dumb stuff. Sam said that like he was joking. He wasn't. Sam left around midnight. He said he was going to check on his mother across town. He said he'd be back in an hour. I watched him pull out of the lot. I watched his taillights turn red in the snow, then vanish. That was the last normal thing I saw. At 12:38 a.m., Sam called. His voice was so low I could barely hear him. He said, "Don't open the door if you hear me." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm not alone." I said, "Are you hurt?" He said, "They're walking in the road like they can't feel it." I asked who. He didn't answer directly. He said, "It's cold, but they're sweating." Then I heard a thump like he dropped the phone, and the call ended. After that, the station doorbell rang twice. Not the front door, the side loading door. 2 rings. Pause. 2 rings. It's a pattern we use sometimes when someone forgets keys. I did not open it. I stood with my hand on the deadbolt, listening. No voice, no footsteps, just that wind, and under it, a faint scraping like something brushing the concrete. I'm telling you this so you understand the rules are different now. Familiar things can be wrong. A pattern you trust can be used by something you shouldn't. If you're sheltering somewhere, here are the practical things. The insider tips you keep asking for in messages that barely reach me. Do not rely on your phone. If you have signal, use it to get one message out to one person. Your location, your status, your plan. Then stop. Save battery. If your phone goes to SOS only, don't keep hunting for bars. That drains you. Put it in airplane mode and check once an hour. Fill containers with water now. Bathtub, pots, bottles, anything. If your water pressure drops, that's not just inconvenience. That's a sign your pumps are failing or your treatment plant is freezing. Once pressure goes, contamination risk goes up. If you still have a way to boil, boil. If you have bleach, you can treat water, but be careful and measure. If you don't know how, don't guess. Better to boil if you can. Heat one room. Close doors. Hang blankets. If you have a fireplace, great, but don't die of smoke. Vent. If you have a gas stove, do not run it for heat unless you know exactly what you're doing and you have airflow. People die quietly that way. If you go outside, cover skin, not just for frostbite, for identification. That sounds paranoid, but I'm hearing too many stories of people being grabbed because they looked like someone, or because a group thought they were with them. Cover your face from the wind and from eyes. And if you have a car and it starts, treat that fuel like gold. Don't idle for comfort. Idle for charging, for short bursts, for moving if you must. Now, I'm going to take one call if the line holds. I'm not promising it will. The last half hour the system has been like a dying animal. Little kicks, then stillness. If you're in range and you can reach the station, you might get through. If you do, tell me your name and where you are. Keep it short. If you start telling me your entire life story, you'll get cut off by physics. Okay, I've got a line blinking. I'm answering. This is Ethan. Go ahead. My name is Priya. I'm in Worcester. I don't know if you can hear me. I can hear you, Priya. Worcester, Massachusetts. What's it like there right now? It's dark. It's not all dark, but most. The streetlights are out, and then one will come on and then go out again. Like it's breathing. And there are people outside, but they're not doing normal stuff. They're not shoveling. They're not helping. They're just standing under the one light when it comes on. Standing under the light. Yeah, like moths. And when it goes off, they don't move. They just wait. And my neighbor, he went out because he thought maybe someone needed help. He shouted. Nobody answered. Then one of them turned and started walking toward him. Slow. My neighbor came back in and locked the door, and then he started crying, like full crying, like a kid. He said the person's face looked wrong, like the skin was tight. I didn't see it. I'm not going outside. You're doing the right thing by not going outside. Priya, do you have heat? We have a little. My dad has a propane heater from camping. We're using it in the living room with a window cracked. I know. Carbon monoxide. We have a detector. Good. Keep the detector close. Fresh batteries if you have them. Do you have water? Still running, but it's slower. Fill everything you can tonight. If you have a bathtub, fill it. If your pressure is already dipping, it could drop completely by morning. Priya, have you heard anything official? Police? City announcements? No. That's the scary part. The police scanner was working, and then it went quiet. Not like busy quiet, like turned off quiet. And the local station on FM is just playing the same song over and over. Same 3 minutes. It's like someone hit repeat and walked away. Priya, stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone you can't confirm. If someone knocks and says they're police, ask for a name, ask for badge number, ask them to say something only a real officer would know, like the street name they're on. If they can't, don't open. That sounds harsh, but harsh keeps you breathing. Can you stay sheltered for at least 12 hours without leaving? Yes, I think so. Then do that. And keep listening. Priya, before I lose you, is there anything else? Any detail you think matters? The snow it's not normal. It's like tiny pellets. It stings. And it's loud. Like sand. Tiny pellets. Loud, like sand. That matches what we're getting here too. Priya, thank you. If you can, conserve your phone now. I'm going to let you go. Okay. Thank you. Please keep talking. Please. I will. The line dropped right after that. If you heard her, you heard how she sounded. Steady on the surface, shaking underneath. That's the sound of a city realizing it's on its own. Now, about the snow she described. We're seeing that here. It isn't the pretty soft kind. It's like ice grains, like the sky is throwing salt at you. That kind of snow doesn't just make driving bad. It gets into everything. It finds gaps in windows. It melts and refreezes in locks. It makes doors stick. If you have a door that's been hard to open, don't force it until it breaks. Work it gently. If it freezes shut later, you'll need that door. I'm going to give you another time marker. It's 2:43 a.m. I can see the main road from here. 10 minutes ago, a convoy went by. 3 vehicles, no headlights, just the dull glow of dashboard lights inside. Could have been police. Could have been National Guard. Could have been anyone who knows driving without lights keeps you unseen. The road was empty otherwise. No plows, no late-night trucks. That alone tells you the interstates are failing as a system. If the interstates fail, supply fails. If supply fails, the rules in every store and every home change in a matter of hours. Earlier, around 1:20 a.m., I heard what I thought was a helicopter far away. It was low and it was steady. It didn't circle. It passed. Then, 5 minutes later, all the cell bars I had on my phone, 2 sad bars, dropped to nothing. That could be coincidence, or it could be deliberate. When aircraft show up and signals vanish, my brain does math I don't like. I'm going to talk now about the silence from governments piece, because that's not just a vibe. There are concrete signs. Number 1, the emergency alert system is behaving like it's being throttled. You got garbled messages. People got none. A few people got clean ones that were weird. Do not approach fallen wildlife. Remain indoors until further notice. No county name, no agency signature. Those systems have templates. They have headers. They have responsibility trails. When that's missing, it means either someone's rushing with no time, or someone's using it without permission, or someone is stripping identifying info on purpose. Number 2, official social media accounts, city, state, stopped posting in clusters, not one by one, in clusters, within minutes, like a switch flipped. Normally, in a storm, those accounts post more. They beg you to stay off roads. They show warming centers. They remind you of hotlines. Silence is not normal storm behavior. Silence is we can't control the story behavior. Number 3, we're hearing about localized curfews that aren't being announced publicly. A guy in Nashua sent a text at 11:05 p.m. saying police were telling people on his block to get inside now and no one out after midnight. But there was no city announcement, no public order, just cops on one block making a rule and moving on. That's a sign of fragmentation. When rules become local and spoken instead of written, it means the top layer is gone or hiding. Now I need to say something that may save you trouble. Not every uniform you see is official. When power goes and the city goes dark, uniforms become costumes. If you don't recognize the vehicle, if you don't see proper markings, if they won't identify themselves, treat it like a threat until proven otherwise. And I need to say one more thing that's hard. Some of the help calls are traps. That's already starting. People are desperate. Desperate people do desperate math. If someone knows you have a generator, if someone knows you have food, they might knock and cry and beg. Some of them will be real. Some of them will be a group behind the door. I can't tell you to never help anyone. I can tell you to help in ways that don't put you inside the same room with strangers. Slide supplies out. Talk through a door. Keep distance. That isn't cruelty. That's survival when trust has been weaponized. I'm going to circle back to the scientific angle, because there are a few things being whispered that you should hear, even if they turn out wrong. I got a message earlier from someone who claims to work in a lab connected to a university in upstate New York. I can't verify the name. The message came through a broken chain of relays. Someone texted someone who emailed someone who used a ham operator to get it north. That's the world we're in now. The message said, "Cold exposure plus unknown stimulant in water supply may cause agitation, hyperfocus, reduced pain response." That's the phrase. Reduced pain response. If that's true, it would explain people standing outside under one streetlight in pellet snow like they don't feel it. It would explain sweating in freezing air. It would explain biting if the brain is misfiring and fear is turned into attack. I'm not saying that's fact. I'm saying it's a theory that matches multiple reports. Another theory from a former Army medic, name was Travis, he said he was calling from near Watertown, New York, was that it looks like cold delirium on steroids. He said in extreme cold, people can get confused and even strip clothes, a thing called paradoxical undressing. That's real. You can look it up when the internet returns. He said he'd seen 3 people on a back road with no coats, walking like sleepwalkers, hands flexing like they were testing the air. He tried to approach one, and the person lunged. Travis said the lunge was fast, not slow. He said the person's eyes looked too wide. Then he said, very quietly, "This is not just hypothermia." Then the call cut. If you're listening and thinking, "So, what do I do with that?" Here's what you do. You treat unknown behavior as dangerous. You don't approach. You don't assume you can talk someone down. You don't assume you can be the hero on your block. You can still be alive without being a hero, and later, if this stabilizes, you can grieve what you didn't do. Grief is a luxury. Breathing comes first. It's 3:06 a.m. The signal is dipping. I can see the transmitter load bouncing. That means you may hear me like I'm underwater for a bit. If I drop out, keep scanning shortwave. This band is messy right now. Some frequencies have a weird buzzing on them, like interference, like something big is stepping on the spectrum. If you have ham gear and you can relay, do it. Relay anything useful. Road status, shelter locations, hospital status, water status. If you can't relay, just listen. Listening is still doing something. Listening is still being connected. I'm going to read you a few inbound notes that came in before the last comms dip. They're short and raw. I'm not cleaning them up. I'm not adding drama. I'm just handing you what the world handed me. Message 1. Time-stamped 11:49 p.m. from Cara, Portland, ME. Sea spray freezing on everything. Waterfront is a sheet. Coast Guard boats not moving. Someone said they're told to stand down. People keep falling, and nobody can help because you can't stand. Message 2, 12:17 a.m. Miguel, Newark, NJ. They shut the tunnels. No announcement. Cops just blocking, people arguing. Then a bunch of guys with masks started taking phones from people filming. Message 3, 12:55 a.m. Hank, Scranton, PA. Truck stopped on I-81 like a parking lot. Not accident, just stopped. Drivers saying their rigs won't start again after they shut off. Diesel gelled. No plows, no state police. Message 4, 1:08 a.m. Elena, Burlington, VT. Power out. Generator at the grocery running. But manager says corporate told them to close and lock doors even with people inside. People screaming. I left. Message 5, 1:33 a.m. No name, just Rochester. Hospitals told to restrict entry. Security posted. They say it's to prevent cold rush. People banging on doors. Do you hear the pattern? Not just cold. Control. Restriction. Silence. That's why I'm still talking. Because if all you have is rumors, you'll make the worst choices. But if you have a pattern, you can at least choose with your eyes open. I'm going to tell you what I think is happening next, based on storms, based on outages, based on how fragile people get when systems flicker. First, water pressure will drop in more places. If you haven't filled containers, do it now. Second, heat will become the main currency. People with wood stoves will become magnets. People will show up. Some will be polite, some will not. Third, roads will become choke points. Abandoned vehicles will block lanes. Plows won't keep up. Emergency services will start choosing what to respond to. That's when you stop expecting help and start building your own small plan. Fourth, information will get dirtier. More lies. More "I heard." More fake authority. That's when you anchor to simple rules. Stay warm, stay hidden, conserve, move only with purpose. Now, I need to check something. I'm hearing banging from downstairs, like metal on metal. Could be the generator coughing. Could be ice shifting. Could be something else. I'm not going to go quiet. If I have to move away from the mic, I'll keep talking while I move. If the audio changes on your end, that's why. I'm walking to the stairwell door. The hallway is dark except for the red exit sign. The building feels like it's holding its breath. The banging is not rhythmic. It's like someone is testing a door. If you're alone listening right now, I need you to do something for me. Look at your exits right now. Don't get up if it's unsafe, but look. Imagine if someone wanted in. Imagine if the cold drove them, or hunger drove them, or something in their head drove them. Where would they come from? What would you do? It's not fear-mongering. It's rehearsal. Rehearsal keeps you from freezing in place. The banging stopped. That's worse than the banging. When a sound stops, it means either it solved the problem or it moved. Okay, I'm back at the mic. I'm here. I'm going to keep going with one more call-in if it comes. If not, I'm going to lay out a timeline from the last 72 hours as clean as I can, because I want you to be able to tell yourself, this didn't happen all at once. It happened in steps. And steps mean there are weak points. And weak points mean there might be a way through. Line blinking again. I'm answering. Ethan Mercer. Name's Derek. I'm in Queens. Don't cut me off. People need to know. Queens, New York City. You're coming through rough, Derek. Talk fast. It's not just up there. It's here. They're doing blocks. Whole blocks. Power on one street, off the next. And then the trains, subway, stopped, started, stopped. People got stuck in tunnels. They had to walk. And you know what's in the tunnels? Water, ice, and people fighting. Any official announcement? Mayor did something earlier. It cut out mid-sentence. He was saying, temporary disruption. And then the screen went blue. After that, nothing. And the cops aren't acting normal. Some are trying, some are just standing in groups like they're waiting for an order that isn't coming. Derek, have you seen the streetlight thing? People standing under one light? Yes. That's why I called. There's a corner near me, Jamaica Avenue. One light keeps coming on. And when it comes on, people walk toward it. Not all people. A certain kind. And they don't talk. They don't look at you. One guy brushed my shoulder and didn't even flinch like he didn't feel me. His skin was hot. Hot. In this cold. I'm not making that up. Hot skin in freezing air. That matches something else I heard. Derek, did you notice anything else? Smell, noise, anything? No smell. Just the sound is wrong. You don't hear traffic. You don't hear the city hum. It's like someone turned the city down. And then you hear a scream. And it feels like it's right next to you because there's no other noise to hide it. Where are you now? Apartment, door locked. We put a dresser against it. My cousin's here. He thinks we should go to our uncle's in Long Island because he has a fireplace. I don't know. Roads are messy. If you move at first light. Not now. Not in the dark. If you have to go, take less than you think you need and more water than you think you need. Keep your head down. Derek, are people breaking into buildings? Yes. Already. They hit the bodega on the corner. Not like stealing chips. Like ripping shelves down. And then 2 guys started fighting over a bag of rice like it was gold. And then, this is the part, one of those light people walked into the bodega and everybody went quiet, like they could tell something was off. Even the thieves stopped. The light person just stood there, staring at the fridge doors. Then he started hitting his head on the glass. Not hard at first, then harder. Like he didn't know how else to get in. Derek. Okay. Derek. Listen to me. Stay inside tonight. Don't open the door for anyone you don't trust with your life. If you have a fire escape, keep it clear. If you have extra blankets, layer. If you have neighbors you trust, signal quietly, make a plan, but don't bring strangers into your space. You did the right thing calling. Save your battery now. Don't stop broadcasting, man. I won't. The line cut, but you heard him. Queens, Jamaica Avenue. The same pattern. That means it's not just rural weirdness. It's not just one county. It's spreading, or it's coordinated, or both. Okay. Timeline. Clean as I can. Thursday night, December 11th. Strange weather model gaps. Pressure line. Too straight to feel natural. Friday, December 12th. Albany plane incident. Grounded flights without clear statements. Early comms stutter. Saturday, December 13th. Garbled emergency alerts. Fallen wildlife wording. State lines starting to behave like borders. Sunday, December 14th. Animal reports, bird drops, deer lines, first hospital whispers about agitation, power patterning, media stations going to seals and black, police scanner silence pockets. Monday morning, today technically, December 15th. The Arctic air hits full. Pellet snow, instant ice, traffic stops, tunnels closed, strange groups under streetlights. And the big one, the sense that command is either gone or hiding. Now, I'm going to do something I don't love doing. I'm going to say this plainly. There is a chance you are not just dealing with cold and outages. There is a chance you are dealing with people whose brains are not working right, and that makes them unpredictable. If you have kids, keep them inside. If you have elderly family, keep them warm and away from windows. If you have medication, ration smart. But don't stop cold turkey on things that keep you stable. Stability matters. And if you're one of the people who feels wrong, if you're sweating in the cold, if you feel jittery, if you feel like light is pulling you, if you feel angry for no reason, do not go outside. Sit down. Drink water. Cover up. Tell someone in your home. I don't know if that will help, but I'd rather you hear it than nobody say it. It's 3:28 a.m. I'm going to keep transmitting as long as the generator holds and the antenna stays up. If you're hearing this and you have a way to relay the frequencies. 6.885 megahertz shortwave, 7.230 backup, 102.9 FM local low power. If I vanish, it means the fuel ran out. or the antenna iced over, or someone found me. If someone finds me, I'm not going to pretend I can fight my way through it. I'm a radio host. My weapon is words, and words don't stop a door from breaking. One more thing before I end this part. If you still have a working weather radio, listen for NOAA alerts. Not because I trust them completely, but because any change, any sudden stop, tells you something. If the NOAA voice goes silent, that's a line in the sand. That means the last official heartbeat you had just stopped. 03:41 a.m. Eastern. The clock on the wall just skipped a second. It didn't tick, it jumped. I don't know if that's power fluctuation or my eyes, but it feels like a bad sign either way. I'm still Ethan Mercer, still in Manchester, still talking, because silence is winning everywhere else. The generator tone just dipped again. If you hear a slight warble in my voice, that's not emotion. That's voltage. If it drops too far, the transmitter will shut itself down to protect the hardware. I've bypassed one safety already. I won't bypass the last one. Fire in this building would end this faster than anything outside. I'm going to keep building this out in pieces that make sense, because the worst thing right now is chaos without shape. Shape gives you choices. Let's talk about the cold itself for a moment, because people keep saying it's just weather, and I need you to understand how wrong that framing is. This cold is not just a temperature, it's a behavior. The wind isn't gusting the way it usually does. It's steady, like pressure from a hand that doesn't get tired. When wind gusts, you get pauses, lulls. You can move in those gaps. This wind has no gaps. It scrapes and scrapes, and that constant motion pulls heat from everything. Metal, skin, walls, without mercy. That's why locks are freezing solid in minutes. That's why cars that were fine an hour ago won't turn over now. The oil thickens. The batteries give up. The cold doesn't ask. It takes. I stepped outside briefly, onto the back landing around 3:15. I counted to 10 and came back in. My eyelashes started sticking together. That's not poetic. That's a warning sign. When that happens, exposed skin follows fast. If you go out, cover everything. Even if you think you'll be quick. Especially if you think you'll be quick. Now, about the snow, Priya was right. It's not the kind that drifts gently. It's granular, like crushed ice. When it hits bare skin, it stings. When it hits windows, it sounds like sand in a storm. That kind of snow doesn't pile pretty. It fills gaps. It clogs vents. If you have a furnace exhaust outside, check it when it's safe. If that exhaust clogs, carbon monoxide builds up inside, and you won't feel it until it's too late. I know I sound like a broken safety pamphlet, but people die in storms because of boring things, not dramatic ones. Now I'm going to move forward in the timeline to what happened after midnight, because that's when things crossed from severe emergency into something else. At 12:07 a.m., I lost access to our internal news wire. Not slow, gone. The login page just spun. I tried a backup VPN, nothing. I tried a personal hotspot, nothing. That tells me the failure isn't local, it's upstream. Someone pulled a plug, or something upstream froze hard enough to shatter. At 12:19 a.m., the emergency phone in the studio, landline, old copper, rang once. One ring, then silence. When I picked it up, there was no dial tone. That's unusual. Copper lines usually outlive everything else. If copper goes quiet, it's either physical damage across a wide area, or it's been intentionally shut off at a switch point. At 12:31 a.m., The AM band started doing something I've never heard before. Not static, not interference. A low, pulsing hum, like a subwoofer you can't quite hear but can feel. It rolled through the band in waves. If you were scanning, you'd hear it rise and fall every few seconds. I don't know what causes that. I called an engineer friend earlier, before his phone died, and he said it could be atmospheric, or it could be something powerful stepping on the spectrum. His exact words were, "That's big energy." Now, about the military side, because I know some of you are thinking about it even if you don't want to say it out loud. Around 1:50 a.m., I heard jets. Not commercial. Too fast, too tight. They didn't show lights. They crossed north to south. Then nothing. If you live near a base, you know the sound of training flights. This wasn't training. Training loops. This was transit. A woman named Carol from near Laconia called earlier and said she saw convoy lights on Route 11. Greenish, low, moving slow. She said there were no markings she could see, just tarped shapes on flatbeds. She said one of the vehicles had a snowplow attachment, but it wasn't plowing. It was just pushing aside abandoned cars enough to get through. That's not rumor. That's a detail someone notices when they're actually looking. What does that mean? It could mean they're moving equipment to protect infrastructure. It could mean they're moving supplies. Or it could mean they're moving barriers. I don't know which. Anyone who tells you they know for sure is lying or guessing. Now let's talk about the light behavior Derek and Priya mentioned, because that keeps coming up. Streetlights are controlled in clusters. They're on circuits. When power is unstable, you usually lose whole stretches. What people are reporting, single lights coming on and off, means either manual control or some kind of fault that's repeating in a very narrow loop. People gathering under those lights could be coincidence. Humans seek light, always have. But the consistency of the reports bothers me. Different cities, same behavior. People not reacting to cold. People not reacting to others. People reacting to light. If there is something neurological happening, chemical, biological, whatever, light sensitivity could be part of it. Or it could be psychological. Or it could be nothing more than frightened humans acting in ways that feel strange when you're already scared. I'm not going to pretend I know. I am going to tell you this. Don't test it. Don't go see for yourself. Curiosity gets expensive right now. I want to read you a longer eyewitness account that came in through email before that went down. It's from a man named Russell in Plattsburgh, New York. He works maintenance at a municipal water facility. Again, I can't verify him fully, but his language rings true. This is what he wrote, verbatim. Something froze that shouldn't freeze. We're designed for cold, but around 10 p.m., gauges started acting wrong. Pressure spikes, drops, spikes, like air getting in where it shouldn't. Then alarms for contamination potential. Not confirmed contamination, but risk. We were told to isolate sections, then told to stop logging manually. That's when I got scared. You don't stop logging unless you don't want a record. Also, 2 guys from somewhere showed up without calling ahead. Didn't give names, just said federal. They asked about downstream neighborhoods, not about the plant, about people. Read that again in your head. Not about the plant, about people. If water systems are compromised, even temporarily, that explains a lot. Confusion, agitation, clusters of odd behavior that don't line up perfectly. It would also explain why officials would try to keep it quiet. Panic over water spreads faster than anything. People can handle power outages. You tell them their water is unsafe, and the city tears itself apart in hours. So here's practical advice again. grounded in that possibility. If you have bottled water, prioritize that. If you're drawing from the tap, boil if you can. If you can't boil, let water sit. Sediment settles. It doesn't make it safe, but it's better than nothing. If you have filters, use them. But remember, filters don't remove everything. If you feel sick after drinking, nausea, dizziness, confusion, stop drinking that source if you can. Now, I'm going to talk about social order, because this is where storms become disasters. People are not breaking down all at once. They're peeling. First, people wait. Then they argue. Then they take. Then they defend. The order matters. Right now, in most places, we're between argue and take. You'll see arguments at gas stations, arguments at grocery doors, arguments in apartment hallways about generators, about noise, about who gets what. Those arguments are warning lights. When they stop being arguments and start being quiet, that's worse. Quiet means lines have been drawn. I heard from a guy named Ben in Keene who said a small group on his block set up a burn barrel in the middle of the road and told everyone, "This is our heat. If you want in, bring something." That's not a gang. That's not a militia. That's neighbors making a rule because no one else is. That can turn good or bad depending on fear. If you're part of something like that, push it toward fairness early. Once a group decides it's strong because it's cruel, it doesn't turn back easily. Media blackouts are accelerating that. When there's no shared story, every street writes its own. That's why I'm still talking. Not because I have all the answers, but because a shared thread matters. I want to address something delicate now. Law enforcement. Some officers are doing their jobs with everything they have. Some are exhausted. Some are scared. Some have families at home and are doing math in their heads about when to leave their posts. That's not a judgment. That's human. But it means you cannot assume uniform equals safety. You also cannot assume uniform equals threat. It means you have to read behavior. Calm explanation is good. Shouting orders without context is bad. If someone with authority refuses to answer basic questions, that's a red flag. Martial law rumors are flying. I have not seen a confirmed, signed declaration. I have seen curfew enforcement without paperwork. That's a gray zone. In gray zones, power flows to whoever can enforce it locally. That might be a sheriff. That might be a guard unit. That might be a group of neighbors with baseball bats. Again, read behavior. I'm going to take another call if it comes. If not, I'll keep filling in the map. Line blinking. Answering. Ethan Mercer. This is Alana. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania. I don't know if this matters, but Lake Erie is doing something weird. Go ahead, Alana. What do you mean, weird? The lake. It's steaming. I know lakes steam when it's cold, but this is different. It's thick, like fog rolling off in walls. And there's a sound, like popping, and the ice near shore isn't forming right. It cracks and then melts again, and people are down there taking pictures like idiots. Lake effect steam thick and popping. That suggests a sharp temperature differential. Have you heard anything official about the shoreline? Closures? Warnings? No. That's the thing. Usually they shut it down. They haven't. And there were fish washing up earlier. Not tons, but enough that people noticed. And then a guy slipped and fell and didn't get up. People thought he hit his head, but when they rolled him, his eyes were open and he was smiling. Smiling. It freaked everyone out. Alana, are you inside now? Yes, I left. I'm home. Doors locked. Good. Stay there. Lakes are dangerous right now, even without everything else. That steam can hide ice gaps, and crowds near water in this cold are a bad mix. Thank you for calling. Save your battery. Okay, please. Please don't stop. I won't. Eerie. Lakes steaming. That fits the flood after freeze warning I got earlier. When extreme cold hits water that isn't ready, you get chaos. Ice forms unevenly. Pressure builds. Then when it breaks, you get sudden surges. If you're near a river, lake, or low-lying area, pay attention. Ice jams can cause flash flooding, even in deep cold. Water finds a way. Now, I want to talk about something that's hard to admit. I'm tired. Not sleepy tired. Bone tired. The kind where your hands shake a little when you reach for something. I've been talking almost non-stop for hours, and the adrenaline is burning off. When it does, fear tries to move in. I'm telling you this because I don't want to pretend I'm some calm voice above it all. I'm in it with you. I'm just lucky enough to have a mic. I took a moment during the last call to look at the fuel gauge on the generator. We have maybe 8 hours if we run it continuously at this load. Maybe 10 if I shut down everything but the transmitter and one light. When daylight comes, if daylight comes through the clouds, I'll have to make a choice. Stay live and risk running out completely, or go dark for a while to save fuel and come back later. I'll tell you before I do anything like that. I won't just vanish if I can help it. I keep thinking about Sam, about that phone call, about the doorbell pattern. I haven't heard it again. I don't know if that's good or bad. The building is quiet now, except for the wind and the generator. Quiet can mean safety. Quiet can also mean something is waiting. If you're listening alone and your place is quiet, don't fill it with noise just to feel normal. Noise carries. Light carries. Be small when you can. I want to give you some hope now, because if all I do is pile dread on you, that helps nobody. There are places holding. Rural homes with wood stoves and wells. Apartment buildings where neighbors are pooling resources instead of fighting. Small towns where one working plow is keeping one road open to a clinic. I've heard from people who said, "It's bad, but we're okay." Those words matter. They mean this isn't everywhere all at once. It means there are pockets of normal inside the mess, and storms, even unnatural ones, do pass. Cold fronts move. Pressure equalizes. Systems adapt. The question is, how much breaks before that happens, and who's left to fix it?